episode 81. This week we cover The Lonely Among Us. This one, it had a great B story that should have been the A story, and then the B story outshadowed the A story. The A story was garbage. It was hot garbage. And it messed up the whole episode. But essentially, the Enterprise picks up two warring factions, the Antikins and the Selaeans. They want to kill each other and eat each other and all this. They're going to a peace conference. They're going to try to hash it out. Apparently both sides applied to be in the Federation. Of course, in later years of the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager, you couldn't have had that because the two planets couldn't be at war in order to apply for membership in the first place. But in this early TNG, they said, sure, you can be at war and apply for position in the Federation. We'll just solve it after the fact. Maybe they learned their lesson here. I don't know. But that's what was going on. As they were getting underway, they go by this big gas cloud in the sky. And then Worf and LaForge are in the sensor repair room or something ridiculous. You never saw this room before or after this episode. Worf in this repair room, not an engineer, but he's in there for some reason, and blue electricity hit him, and he's like, "Urgh," and he drops down. LaForge calls for Dr. Crusher, who rushes into the room, starts shooting Worf full of drugs before she checks him at all. No tricorder, no checking his pulse, no looking at his breathing. She just starts shooting him full of drugs. No wonder Worf hated doctors later in the Star Trek franchise. But that goes on, and then we find out that this blue electricity was some sort of sentient gas cloud beam. It was passing not only through crew members and taking over their bodies, either completely or partially, depending on what the script said on individual pages, but also through mechanical devices. It could do anything. It kills the engineer of the week, who was this Indian guy this week. Never showed how he died, just that he did die in engineering, and the gas cloud creature was eventually revealed to be what happened. It settles in on Captain Picard, who starts acting strangely. The crew can tell he's acting strangely. They know something's wrong. Dr. Crusher gets a full confession from this gas cloud creature that it's inhabited the body of Captain Picard and is in control of him. And then they don't relieve him of command. They're like, oh, well, nothing we can do, really. And then Picard beams out into space. Riker's like, well, guess we'll go on to the next mission. And they're like, what about the captain? He's like, you beamed away. Nothing we can do. But then weird stuff starts happening, and they see the letter P pop up on the screen. They're like, it must be Captain Picard, and he's saying he's fine. They beam him back aboard somehow. They don't know how they did it, but they did it. And then Picard has no knowledge of what has transpired at all, despite the fact they said he was clearly conscious and knew what he was doing in order to alert them that he could be beamed back aboard. Totally disregarded that once he's on board. Then, in the worst scene of possibly the entire run of Star Trek The Next Generation, Picard was told maybe you should go rest. He disagreed, but then Tasha Yar comes in. She says one of the delegates had been missing, and the other delegate wanted like food that looked suspiciously like the missing delegate. So there's like a murder scene here on the ship, and Picard's like, I think I will take that nap. You take it, number one. Ha ha ha. And he walks off. Now imagine, in the Journey to Babel in the original series, when Captain Kirk got the call from a security officer, one of the delegates had been found murdered with a broken neck in the hallway. If Kirk said, well, I was going to go play some handball in the rec room, why don't you take it, ensign? And then just laughed and walked away. It didn't happen. He had to take it seriously. He had to start a murder investigation. A delegate from a planet was murdered on board. Here, Picard laughs it off like, oh, it's an everyday occurrence. Nothing to see here. Totally out of character for Picard. Completely out of character. They should have restrained him and made sure that gas cloud creature wasn't still inhabiting the body, but still, they just let him go take his nap. Didn't send him to the doctor, nothing. They took his word for it. They'd been fooled before. A plot was horrible. Absolutely horrible. The B plot, if they focused more on the two delegates and what they were doing to try to overcome the war and join the Federation, they may have had a good story. But they did not. It was horrible with the blue lightning effects and all. But some interesting things in this one. Marc Alaimo made his very first Star Trek appearance in this. He was one of the delegates, uncredited, because he didn't want his name attached to it because he wasn't sure if he liked the idea of being in a sci-fi television show or not, so he asked that his name be left out. Of course, Marc Alaimo went on to be Gul Dukat in Deep Space Nine. So he had a long run in Star Trek later in his career. Pretty much that's episode 81.